So Anthropic just released Claude for small business. It's their new free plugin that includes 15 AI workflows across areas like finance, operations, and marketing. Honestly, this is a goldmine for finally automating repetitive work. Before this plugin was released, it was pretty difficult for the average small business owner to build effective workflows in Claude. But because this plugin was specifically designed for small business use cases, it's super valuable right out of the box. So in this video, I'll break down what the small business plugin is, how to set it up, then we'll rapid fire through 13 tactics to make sure you're getting the most out of it. I'm Thaddeus. I'm a former senior data scientist and the founder of Elevate. We build AI systems for small businesses every day. And every week, I break down what works here so you can use AI better in your own work, even if you don't have a technical background. Let's get into it. First, let's go over what Claude plugins are and why everyone's freaking out about them. To put this in perspective, when Anthropic released Claude Cowork, the app these plugins run inside, investors in Wall Street were really shook and started moving their investments. In February 2026, a single AI release wiped out about $300 billion in software stock value in a matter of days. People started calling this sell-off a SaaS apocalypse. Anthropic's own CEO, the makers of Claude, even said this at a recent JP Morgan event. I don't know what will happen to the current cohort of SaaS companies. The situation is highly uncertain. It is very possible that some of them will lose value, go bankrupt. It all depends on their response. All that to say, these plugins are really powerful and it's still early, so now is definitely the right time to really jump in and take advantage. So let's break down what Claude plugins actually are, because there are three pieces working together here: a skill, a connector, and a plugin. I know there are a ton of new releases in the AI space each week, but these three concepts are very important because these are the standard building blocks that every AI company is now adopting. So I want you to actually understand what each of these is doing, because understanding these building blocks is going to help you use AI better than the majority of businesses. And once you understand how these three fit together, the rest of this video is going to make a lot more sense. So first, let's talk about skill. If you've seen The Matrix, you already understand skill. That's the scene where Neo just plugs into a computer and instantly downloads the ability to do Kung Fu into his brain. In the movie, he just opens his eyes and says, "I know Kung Fu." It's like if you were able to transport a skill or ability from one person to another in an instant. This comparison, by the way, is so on point that even a product manager at Anthropic shared that this is his favorite analogy to understand how skills work. Now, what does this exactly look like in a small business? Well, you might have a specific way that you like to do your financial monthly reporting, the exact order you want to see your metrics, your favorite visualizations or charts, or just your built-up intuition on what numbers look like good, bad, or incredible. Well, what if you were able to instantly give a new member of your team all of that expertise and knowledge that you've built up, and they were able to execute that task just like you every time? That's what skills allows you to do. It's a task you teach Claude once, and then from then on, it just knows how to do it, and it does it the same way every time. Normally, you'd chat back and forth with Claude to do multi-step workflows, but now you can just select the correct skill, and then the entire thing runs, even if you have 5, 10, 15 steps in a workflow. Now, let's break down connectors. Okay, let's just imagine for a second that Neo said to do Kung Fu, he needed nunchucks. And I know that doesn't actually happen in the movie, but let's just go along with this. Knowing how to fight is one thing. Having access to the tool that you need to fight is a different thing. The nunchucks are the connectors in this example. It's the tool that he needs to do the job in that moment. So here's what that looks like in a small business. If you ask a new team member to do the monthly finance reporting, the tool that they're going to need access to could be QuickBooks. So there's really no use in giving them the skills or ability to do the financial reporting unless you're also giving them access to QuickBooks where your financial data is. This problem is exactly what plugins solve. A plugin bundles together the ability and the tools to do a job in one package. And that's really the whole reason that this entire plugin exists as one install instead of 15 different skills that you download. Anthropic already did the work of pairing every skill with the exact connectors that it needs, so it's very easy to just share this with any small business. All right, let's set up the Claude for Small Business plugin. There are only two things to do, and this whole thing will just take 5 minutes. First, install it. Open up the Claude desktop app, and if you've only ever used Claude in the browser, this is the app to download. Then go to Customize, Browse Plugins, and then search Small Business. Go ahead and click Install. Second, connect your apps, because every skill in this plugin works through these apps. To start off, they have QuickBooks, PayPal, HubSpot, Canva, DocuSign, Google, and Microsoft, with more coming soon, but just turn on whatever you use most for now. And if you're connecting anything sensitive like your QuickBooks, there's one privacy setting that I would flip on first, so we're going to cover that in tactic number 3. Alright, now that you're set up, let's make sure you get the most out of it. Here are the 13 tactics. Tactic number 1, find the best workflows to automate. A lot of what I hear from small businesses is that they try to use Claude Code or Zapier and it kept breaking and the output was bad, so then they just gave up on automating workflows. If you choose the wrong workflow, you're already at a huge disadvantage because not everything is meant for AI automation. So here's the simple framework that instantly tells you what your best AI use cases are and builds you a simple AI roadmap. It's called the AI Opportunity Zone. And to make it easy, I turned this entire framework into just a prompt here, so you can go ahead and copy and paste this into your Claude. It'll ask you a couple questions and then give you back the best use cases for your work. So make sure you go ahead and screenshot or copy them. There are 3 qualities that your workflow needs in order to be a good candidate for AI automation. High friction, is this repetitive or annoying? High value, is this tied to money, client work, or any outcomes that matter for your business? And then feasible, can this actually be broken down into a clear set of steps for AI to follow? For most small business owners, that ends up being something related to sales or marketing. Things like chasing invoices, following up with leads, or creating content that allows you to get more customers. So once you found your top few workflows, you can compare these against the included skills in the small business plugin and then choose the ones that align best with your use cases. Everything about trying to use AI better is going to be much easier when you just start in the right place. Tactic 2, make your skills automatically self-improve. Honestly, social media videos make setting up AI workflows for your business way easier than they actually are. If you just use generic skills that are meant for everyone, then they're not going to be specific to how you work. Maybe the tone is off, or it misses details specific to how you like to run things. So we need to adapt these skills to how we work, and that's where a self-improving loop comes in. Which, by the way, the idea of a self-improving loop is what all the tech and AI founders have been obsessed with recently because it is a very powerful concept. Now, don't make the mistake of trying to customize an entire skill at once. It's hard to know exactly how your process or reasoning is different from how these skills are set up. The easiest way to create a self-improving loop is to use what I call a closed skill. Here's how it works. At the end of your work session in Claude Cowork or Code, you've probably given it a ton of feedback or revealed the way you like something done throughout your chat. So this closed skill is a skill that you run at the end of each of your session, and you can trigger it in one of 2 ways. You can navigate with a slash and find the skill, or you could just say you're done for the day or you want to wrap up, and Claude will recognize what you mean and then run the closed skill. So the first thing it does is read back through the entire session and then presents a summary of the session to me along with 3 questions. First, what did I get done? I tell it and that gets logged to my change log, which is a running history of what I got done. Second, what did I decide and why? And this is the important part. By default, Claude can see the files you've created or edited, but it can't see why you made the call unless you specifically tell it. The voiceover of the reason behind your actions is what really teaches Claude how to do your work. And if you think about it, this is how your colleagues or employees work also. You don't just give them a step-by-step, you tell them the steps and also why you're performing each of those steps. That's how you really transfer your expertise. Third, did anything change about how I work? Is there a new rule or a new preference that I discussed? Claude then updates any skills or instructions that it needs from your feedback. Self-improving loops are the difference between AI that just creates more admin work for you and then AI that can actually eliminate repetitive work and free up your time and energy. Tactic number 3, don't train AI on your sensitive data. This is an important one and I don't see anyone really talking about it. So if you care about data privacy, you're going to want to pay attention to this one. On Pro and Max plans, so not Team or Enterprise, Anthropic may use your chats to help improve Claude, and this setting is on by default. Most people don't know that this toggle is there. Now, to be fair, the raw data a connector pulls in, like your QuickBooks numbers, aren't automatically sent to Anthropic to train on. But if you're going back and forth in a chat and you mention any of these sensitive numbers, that information could be sent to Anthropic to train Claude. And honestly, in practice, you're going to paste these numbers and talk through your business, and it's really easy for sensitive data to just slip out in your chats. So if you want to make sure none of that is used to train Claude, follow these steps. Go into your settings, go to privacy, turn off the toggle that says help improve our AI models. Or if you're running on Team or Enterprise plans, this setting doesn't apply to you, so you're good. Tactic 4, turn a one-time report into a live dashboard. Sometimes you have a workflow that you run often to monitor where you're at. For example, you might run the cash flow snapshot skill and see where your profit is month to date. If you catch yourself running a skill repeatedly to get business metrics, for example, you might be better off just turning that into a live dashboard. And Claude Cowork's Live Artifacts is the easiest way to build this with just natural language. That's the dashboard that connects to your data and then refreshes every time you open it. So you can stop rerunning those same snapshot or reporting skills every week. And the same idea applies to almost any report that this plugin produces. Things like a sales pipeline, a weekly ops summary, or a marketing performance recap, or a dashboard of your content analytics. After you run the skill, just ask for a live artifact so that this becomes a dashboard. Then you're going to see a new dashboard created in your artifacts tab on the left, and you can even pin it for easy access. Tactic 5. Redirect skills to your actual tool stack. Here's something most people don't realize when they first install the Claude for Small Business plugin. These skills aren't locked to the exact tool they're named after. They're instructions that Claude could read and then apply to any app. For example, let's say the plugin connects to HubSpot, but you don't use HubSpot. These skills could still be really valuable. You could have Claude read that skill and then adapt it to whatever CRM you actually use instead. Most of these tools do the same handful of things under the hood, so Claude can usually retarget it without much trouble. And plenty of CRMs have MCP servers, which stands for Model Context Protocol, which is basically just a standardized way for any AI tool to connect into Claude. So if you want to do this, here's the workflow. Let's say you use the Relatable CRM instead of HubSpot, but you're interested in the HubSpot skill. Once you make sure Relatable has their own MCP, which I checked and they do, you would connect it to Claude by using Claude's connectors and adding a custom MCP and then grabbing the MCP URL from Relatable's setup guide. Then go ahead and add whatever HubSpot skill you were interested in and tell Claude the following prompt. I have the following skill file meant for HubSpot, but I use Relatable as my CRM. Rebuild the same workflow and adapt this skill to work with their Relatable MCP. Claude will then guide you from there, and a few minutes later, you should have a working skill. Tactic 6. Build your own mini software tools. And if you don't want a big CRM or SaaS tool at all, that's also fine. You can have Claude build you a much simpler version that's actually tailored to only the features you want. Say you just want to see your sales pipeline as a bar chart and then a dashboard of the leads you need to follow up with and nothing else. All you need to do is describe exactly that, hand Claude one of these skills as a reference of what a good version looks like, and then it'll build a stripped down version right inside tools like Notion, Airtable, or even Google Sheets that's shaped specifically for the use case you're looking for. I personally tested 3 different task tracking tools that integrated with AI, but honestly, I found that all of the tools had way too many features that I would never really touch. So I just told Claude exactly the user experience that I was looking for, and then it just helped me build my own custom project and task management system in Notion, which by the way, I can just update through Claude, so I rarely ever even open Notion. And by the way, I made that Notion template completely free in the AI Workflows Academy, so you can grab that at the link below. So I was personally able to cancel some subscriptions, and maybe this is evidence for the SaaS apocalypse, I don't know, but I'm saving money. So in summary, you can adapt these skills to your tools or use them as a blueprint to build your own custom systems like I did. Tactic 7. Chain your skills into one compound workflow. Each skill in this plugin is its own block. It does one specific job, but they don't have to sit there waiting on you to trigger the next one. Here's what this could look like. Say your cash flow snapshot runs every week. If it comes back down more than 10% from last month, that alone could kick off a workflow that checks in with your content and sales and sees what the performance is. Then a separate strategy skill can look at both of those outputs and then decide what's likely driving the drop. And instead of you digging through 3 different reports, it could just send you a short brief in Slack and say, here's the issue and here's what I would recommend doing about it. So notice what you didn't have to do. You didn't have to check the snapshot. You didn't have to go around clicking different dashboards and looking for your content and sales and trying to diagnose the problem. The repetitive work was done and then you just got a brief. This is where it gets really powerful. You're not the one triggering each workflow and reviewing all of the output anymore. The workflows can be connected and then you can show up when something's actually worth your attention. If there is something bigger to decide, like increasing your ad spend, that's exactly when your AI systems could then ping you and then wait for your judgment call. By the way, if you're thinking, wow, these workflows are great, but I'd rather have an AI team just save me the headache and come in and set this all up, that's exactly what we do at Elevate. We build out AI operating systems for small businesses. That includes building out your company's AI brain and building AI workflows that you fully own in just 14 days. So if you want to learn more about that, there's a link in the description. Tactic 8. Trigger skills dynamically. There are 3 ways to trigger a skill. You can call it by name, like run my close skill. You can select it from your skill menu by typing in a slash and then navigating to your skill, or you can just describe what you're trying to do, and if Claude recognizes your request matches a skill you've built, it'll use it automatically. And that third one is the one that most people miss. Earlier, when I was talking about my close skill that makes the whole system self-improve, I don't need to even remember that there is a skill called the close skill. I just say I'm wrapping up for the day and the whole thing runs. But we need to make sure Claude has clear instructions on what each of these skills are. And that's why a good description of the skill itself is crucial for Claude to reliably select the right one. At the top of each skill here in the Customize menu is where you write the description. It's the only part of the skill that Claude has context on across every chat. This is what it uses to route your prompt to the right skill. So if you ever build your own skill later, spend the time to write a clear skill description that catches the key phrases, words, or scenarios in which you want that skill to activate. Trust me, it can get really messy if you don't do this, and especially if you start sharing skills across a team. If it's not taken care of, you run the risk of not really knowing how work is getting done. Tactic 9. The call this skill can make you money today. This one's easy to overlook because it's not the flashiest skill in the plugin, but it might be the fastest way to get money that's just sitting right in your business. When you notice that one of your deals may have just gone quiet, don't just make a mental note like most people do, because of course there's always a lot to do. Run the call list skill right then while it's fresh. This skill has Claude pull the contact history for that specific deal, draft talking points based on exactly where things left off, and then automatically free up your calendar to make time for the meeting. So instead of a stalled deal just sitting there until you happen to remember it 3 weeks later, you've got a ready-to-go reason to just reach back out the same day that a deal went cold. Tactic 10. Route your scheduled output to where you already work. A scheduled task can just run skills on a timer, so it gets done without waiting for you to trigger it. But most people stop right there and then just let the output sit in whatever tool waiting for someone to check it. So let's take it one step further. Point that output at the channel you already check every single day, things like Slack or Google Chat, and then tag the specific person who actually needs to see it. It lands directly in front of the right person at the moment that it matters, instead of sitting in an untouched tool that nobody really opens. Tactic 11. Start small. I know it's tempting to just turn on every connector inside this plugin the moment you install it, but I promise that's not the best strategy. If you enable everything at once, you're probably just going to lose track of what's even running. Add connectors gradually as you figure out which workflows you actually want to hand off. Now, if it's just to experiment and see which of these skills is useful, then that's fine. But here are 2 things to keep in mind when you do this. First, remember Tactic 8. Claude reads the skill descriptions to route your prompts to the correct skill. If you have several overlapping skills that do the same thing, you're not going to reliably trigger the one that you actually want. And second, each time you use skills within this plugin, it's pulling data from your apps, and that runs up your token usage. Tokens in AI are just like credits that you cash in every time you run a prompt through Claude, and controlling your tools does use them up way faster than just regular chats with Claude. So build up your library of active skills and connectors gradually. Tactic 12. Set per action approval tier. Let's talk about how to put guardrails on what your AI is allowed to do. In the connectors menu, you can review all the permissions you're actually giving Claude for each app. So say you've connected your own Shopify store with all your products there. You might not want Claude to accidentally make changes to your prices, or maybe you do, I don't know. But the point is, you can specify whether Claude should ask for approval before an action, block certain actions so it doesn't even try, or if something is reliable enough, just let Claude do it without even asking you. That same idea applies to your calendar, your email, and any other tool that you connect. When in doubt, just start with more guardrails and then slowly open it up piece by piece as you build trust in whatever skills or connectors you're using. Tactic 13. Turn your own manual process into a custom skill. And I saved this one for last on purpose because I think it's the biggest one. The most useful skills are so custom, they're built just for you, tuned to exactly how you work and all your preferences. Now, building off of existing skills for inspiration is great, but a lot of the times there might not be a strong one that you can model off of. Well, here's a simple test for what should turn into a skill. If you catch yourself doing a specific workflow more than once a week, it's worth trying that out as a skill. Here's one of mine. I call it the daily brief. And I bet that you have a similar morning workflow, but you might just need to take some time to write it down step by step. My daily brief checks my calendar, pulls my tasks, scans my inbox or team messages, and then hands me a short brief that includes my priorities, anything that's overdue, and then my mins. And the min section here is my favorite part, and I haven't seen anyone else put this in their workflow. In my personal experience, AI is great at handing me a pile of ideas, but it's so easy to just get lost on what to actually tactically do next. So my my briefs always end by pointing out at the next smallest actionable step to do right now, which of course I can go back and agree or disagree, and then eventually get it to a place that I'm satisfied with. So with skills and connectors, you're connecting tools to AI and teaching it how to do your work, but there's still a big missing piece of your AI setup. It's still not grounded in exactly who you are. It probably doesn't sound like you, and then the visuals that it'll create might not look like your brand. That's because it's missing your business context. This is the foundation that should power every single one of these workflows. I call that your company's AI brain. You might have heard people just call this your context, your second brain. We're still early in the AI wave, so there's a ton of names to really talk about the same concept. If you want to build one for your business, you're going to love the next video where I walk through exactly how you can do that and give you free templates. All right, I'll see you in the next one.